Alrighty, what is up everybody, Pretender here, back with another Honkai Star video, and today I'm going to be providing a full free-to-play guide on Acheron. This guide will pretty much only be covering 4-star options. The only 5-star options on this video will be if they are in standard or not, and anything that will have a standard selection will have a free-to-play option you can do. So anything that does regard having a standard equivalent, there will be a free-to-play equivalent you can use. So in this video, I'm going to be giving a basic overview on Acheron's kit and how she works. Followed by that, I will be going over the teammates that are really good with her, along with really good Lightcones that benefit Acheron directly. Then I'll be going over Acheron's Lightcones that you can use on her. Followed by that, I'll be covering the sustain portion of this video for the sustain on her team. This video won't be going over the relics and relic stats for any of these characters, just because I do have a guide for practically every single Acheron teammate. So if you're more curious about the relic stats and what you want to be running on your characters and Acheron herself, you can definitely check out my channel for videos on the build guides. And yeah, before I get into the video, if you guys could drop a like on the video and hit the sub button for future videos like this, would be greatly appreciated, and let's get straight into the video. So I'm not going to be going over exactly what Acheron's kit is, I'm just going to be giving a brief summary. Pretty much, Acheron is this character that functions off charges called Slash Dream. Pretty much you need a total of 9 points of Slash Dream in order to unleash your ultimate, and so that does mean she doesn't function off normal energy just like every other character in the game. The other way to get charges for Acheron's ult is actually inflicting debuffs. Every time an ally inflicts a debuff, it will give Acheron 1 point for her ultimate, so giving her 1 point of Slash Dream. And so the whole goal is to run ways to debuff as fast as possible to give Acheron the ult fast as possible. Her ultimate is where her main damage comes from, with all the damage boosts you get, with the all-type rest pen, all that kind of stuff, is where pretty much mainly her damage will be focused, and the main goal is to get her to 9 stacks as quick as possible just so you can ult. Acheron does also have this thing where when you're running more than one other Nihility character that isn't just her, she gains a boost to her original damage. So when you have one other Nihility character on the team that isn't her, the original damage that you were going to deal, so 100% of the damage you're going to deal, goes up to being 115%. And if you have 2 other Nihility characters, it goes up to being 160% of the original damage. Acheron does also go into the battle starting with 5 points of Slash Dream, so you only need 4 right away to ult, assuming you are not using the technique. So you don't have to go from 0 to 9 when you do start a battle, you just have to go from 5 to 9, so it's a lot easier to get your first ultimate. Now for the first unit I'll be talking about on this list is going to be Gunnaifin. Gunnaifin is free to play, will be free to play, and was free to play. There's an event coming up that will let you choose her if you do not have her, and we just had an event in 2.0 where you were able to choose her. Gunnaifin is a fantastic option just because of a few things you can do. With her burn, she is able to apply debuffs, and the debuffs are very much needed because Acheron will gain a stack from when you are applying a debuff, and so the chance to apply burn will be really good with Gunnaifin. Gunnaifin also has this unique thing called Fire Kiss. Pretty much what Fire Kiss does is when you are inflicted with it, or when the enemy is inflicted with it I should say, they will be taking increased damage. It is 7% per stack and can stack up to 3 times. Gunnaifin herself also does do really nice damage, so she is not only just the debuffer of the team, making your Acheron also deal increased damage, she also does good damage herself. So Gunnaifin is a really good option to run with Acheron. The next option on this list for her teammates will be Pela. Pela is currently right up on Acheron's banner, so there is a good chance you do have had the opportunity to pull her, or you already had her. So Pela is really good with Acheron, mainly because of her ult. What her ult does is it inflicts this debuff onto enemies called Exposed, and what Exposed does is enemies' defense is reduced by 40% for 2 turns. And you can obviously imagine 40% defense reduction will be really good with Acheron just because of how much stuff you already get from damage boost. So the next thing you can benefit with Acheron to do damage will be defense lowers and debuffs on the enemy, so the defense lower is really nice. Since Pela is a 4-star, if you do have E4, there is another way to apply a debuff through her skill, because what E4 does is it gives you a 100% chance to decrease enemies' ice res by 12%. Obviously, Acheron isn't an ice DPS, but because it does inflict the debuff, now your skill has a guaranteed chance to apply a debuff, giving Acheron a charge. And so Pela is another fantastic option you can use with Acheron. Now talking about a 5-star, the 5-star character that will be really good that you might have from standard is Welt. Welt is insanely good for Acheron because of the amount of debuffs he can apply. His skill not only does really good damage, it then also does imply slow to the enemy, reducing the speed, and is also considered a debuff to give your Acheron a charge. And his ultimate does have a 100% base chance to inflict imprisonment, and imprisonment also means their actions are delayed by 40% and speed is reduced by 10%, which is also considered a debuff, so both the ultimate and skill from Welt will be inflicting a debuff. Not only that, but Welt himself also does very solid damage, so another really good sub DPS you can have on the team. There is also a way to turn him into your sustained character, we just call it Sustain Welt, which I do have a video on covering that you can also check out with the build guide. Not only does Welt have really good debuff potential, he also has one thing with one of his bonus abilities where he does apply vulnerability to the enemies when you are using your ultimate. Everyone you do hit with the ultimate does get inflicted with vulnerability, meaning they will take 12% more damage. And so that directly helps the damage output you can do, because when Acheron's hitting them, they receive more damage, Acheron does more damage. So Welt is another fantastic option you can run with Acheron. Now, for a quick recap of the characters. Gwynaifen is a fantastic option with Acheron just because she easily inflicts debuffs with Burn, she has Fire Kiss which makes Acheron do more damage, and she herself does really good damage. Pela is the other good option because she has a really good AoE defense lower to the enemy. With E4 it is very easy to apply a debuff, and she is one of the best options because of the defense lower, making Acheron have the highest damage output on teams. Welt is fantastic because his skill does apply a slow debuff, and his ultimate also does apply imprisonment, making it very easy to apply debuffs. He can make it to where your enemies attack less so you don't take as much damage, has fantastic DPS output, and his ult also makes enemies take more damage. Moving on to the best Lightcones that you do want to use on those teammates, the best of the best you can use on them will be Resolution Shines as Pearls of Sweat. The reason this is the best one of them is because it has a debuff called Ensnared. What Snare does is it decreases the enemies that are ensnared defense by 12% for a turn. So you're now further decreasing defense, making Acheron deal even more damage, and is also considered a debuff, giving Acheron a charge. This one is really good, especially if you do not have an E4 Pela, so now you can run this, and it's also just good on all of them because now it gives the ability to apply a debuff with their basic attack, letting them be more skill point positive. The other fantastic option is the before the tutorial mission starts, because what it does is it gives effect hit rate to anyone that you put it on. And Pela, Welt, and Gwynaifen all do benefit from effect hit rate, so they have a better chance to apply their debuffs. And when they do attack defense reduced enemies, regenerates 4 energy. This part won't be that useful on anyone besides Pela on this, because Gwynaifen doesn't lower defense and Welt doesn't lower defense either, but Pela does. So Pela will definitely benefit from this more than the others, but it is still a nice option you can use on the others. Moving on to the best 4-star options for Acheron and her Lightcone. The best option is actually one that we don't have full word on yet. I can't go into details on what it is fully, but pretty much it's going to be a Lightcone that does give you crit rate, and the wearer will also deal increased crit damage to anyone that is defense lowered or slowed. So with Welt also being able to apply slow, that makes it easy to do, and Pela being able to do defense lowered, which is really easy to do, it benefits Acheron a ton. Gwynaifen sadly can't do either, so it might be a little more difficult if Gwynaifen is your only other option to use with her. But if you happen to have something like Silverwolf, which I won't get into because it's obviously not a free-to-play option, she is also going to be really easy to do it with as well. But now for actual obtainable Lightcones in the game, the next best option is Goodnight and Sleep Well. This is due to the fact that you get very easy damage dealt increases that can stack up to 3 times, and all you really need to do is have 3 debuffs on the enemy, and with how much debuffs you do apply with an Acheron team, it is extremely easy to have Goodnight Sleep Well stacked up 3 times. So you're pretty much just getting a free damage dealt. This next option I'm going to talk about is a little situational and is only really being able to be used efficiently with someone like Welt, again like Silverwolf too, but you really need someone that can slow, so if you don't have Welt you can ignore this part. The Lightcone I'm going to talk about is actually the 3-star Lightcone called Loop. Since it's a 3-star, I'm just going to talk about its R5 stats. What it does is it does increase damage dealt from the wearer to slowed enemy by 48%. Welt does apply slow and it's very easy to apply slow with Welt. So Acheron is going to be having a pretty much free 48% damage dealt uptime. So if you do have Welt on the team, you can use this Lightcone if you do not have any of the other options. It is a viable option for free to play until you get a better one. Now moving on to the sustain portions, mainly the 2 sustains that you will be using will be the Fire Trailblazer or Jeopard. Pairing this with a 4-star Lightcone called Trend of the Universal Market, this makes these 2 sustains really good with an Acheron team. What the Lightcone pretty much does is it does give you defense, so the sustain capabilities do increase. And when that character does get attacked, there's a base chance to inflict burn on the enemy. And so that burn will be considered a debuff, so every time your sustained character being Jeopard or the Fire MC does get hit, they inflict a burn, which counts as a debuff, giving Acheron a point of /dream. These 2 are fantastic options due to the fact that the Fire MC has the taunt with the skill, pretty much forcing the enemies attacking to hit the Fire MC. Not only that, the taunt itself is considered a debuff, so when you do pop the skill, you don't only taunt the enemies so they can hit you and you can gain stacks, You also make it to where you give Acheron a stack if you do apply the taunt. You are going to need some effect rate for the taunt to actually always work though. Jeopard is the other fantastic option because with the skill he can apply freeze, which is a debuff, but with one of his bonus abilities he does have a thing where he has a higher chance to be hit by enemies. So he'll be able to also sort of direct away the damage from your team and hit it on him, and when you do have the Universal Market Lightcone on him, it will apply the burn, giving Acheron a stack. Jeopard also does provide a really nice shield with his ultimate, so it's also really nice to have when things go bad. His talent also does let him revive if he does get killed for the first time in that battle. So if things get really bad with Jeopard being attacked, you do have a safety net there, so it is a little nice bonus to have. So these two with the Universal Market Lightcone is very good. If you don't have the Universal Market Lightcone, you can just give them any other preservation Lightcone that does give something like defense. Because for the most part, these two are one of the best sustains on the team just because of the trend of the Universal Market. If you don't have it, it's a little more difficult to build them as a sustain just because their whole purpose for the most part is to gain the stacks as quickly as possible by getting hit, so Acheron can kill the enemy. But again, if you don't have the trend of the Universal Market Lightcone, it is completely fine to just give them another preservation Lightcone that you might have. So as a quick recap on that part, Universal Market Lightcone is going to be a fantastic option because it does increase the defense of the sustain you put it on, and when enemies do hit that character that has the Lightcone on, it inflicts a burn debuff, giving Acheron a stack. And talking about the Fire MC, the skill applies a taunt, making it really easy to get hit. The taunt itself is a debuff, and the Fire MC can dish out some pretty decent damage. As for Jeopard, he has a higher chance to be hit by enemies. His skill applies freeze, which is a debuff. His ultimate provides a really nice shield for your team, and his talent is a sort of safety net if you are fighting a harder battle. So if you die, you have another chance, if it's Jeopard, obviously. And so yeah, that is the full free-to-play guide, mainly going over 4 stars. This guide is mainly tailored towards people who might not have the best options on Acheron's team and don't have Acheron's Lightcone itself. So there are many ways you can work around it, even as a free-to-play with this guide. So I do hope you guys found this guide helpful. Let me know if you did, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.